Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Alhamdulillah. He said, okay, fine, alhamdulillah. Where's the brother who always depresses me by telling me that I gained weight? He used to sit here always. It's against the sunnah to tell someone you gained weight, by the way, because it depresses people. It upsets. You say the opposite. Say you lost weight. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. All praises are due to Allah, the Creator, the Cherisher, and the Sustainer of this universe. And may His peace and blessings be upon His noble Prophet Muhammad and his descendants and his companions and his followers. Dear respected brothers and sisters, tonight we are going to give the first of two lectures about the root causes of atheism and the remedies, how to avoid atheism if someone is afflicted by any of these root causes. Tonight actually is the root cause. It's long, quite long tonight, by the way. At least 45 minutes or more. And I named the lecture Root Causes of Doubting Islam, not atheism actually. Whether it means to doubt the existence of God or to doubt the existence of religion. Some people believe that there is a God, there is a creator, but they don't believe that there are religions. They don't believe that there must be a religion. Or if it means doubting Islam itself as the right choice when it comes to choosing between religions. So all of these are actually doubting Islam. I preferred not to use the term atheism all the time for a reason. I personally believe, after 20 years of experience now of counseling people who left the religion, I believe wholeheartedly that most of them were not atheists. And I believe that very rarely when those who identify themselves as atheists are true atheists who do not believe in the existence of God. The word atheism is a camouflage. They use it to avoid the exact term that describes them. And the right term is misotheists, not atheists. Misotheism is a mixture of feelings between hate and anger. So it starts with maltheism. Maltheism is the belief that God is bad or evil. May Allah forgive me for saying these words, but I have to because I'm explaining this nasty topic actually. But I have to say it. So maltheism is the belief that God is evil. And it turns into misotheism, the hatred towards God. May Allah forgive me for uttering such abominations. Usually people who are like that, by the way, are kind people. And they have a lot of love in their hearts to humanity. It's just that they hate to see suffering. They hate to see people dying in tsunamis, volcanoes, diseases, cancer, all natural disasters. So they feel that it is completely unjust that those people suffer like that and that they don't deserve it. But this in itself, natural disasters, people dying, has nothing to do philosophically with the existence of God or non-existence of God. It has to do with the character of God, the names of God, the attributes of God. Is He merciful or not? But not He exists or not. You understand what I mean? So philosophically, their reasons that makes them atheists logically should not make them atheists. It's not about the existence of God. It's about the character of God. I'll give you an example. I forgot the book at home. I just bought yesterday a book for a philosopher called Thomas Nagel. Thomas Nagel was maybe the most honest atheist I read for. He is a philosopher, the professor of philosophy in New York University. In page 130 of that book, listen what he wrote. He said, I want atheism to be true, and I'm made uneasy by the fact that some of the most intelligent and well-informed people I know are religious believers. It is not just that I don't believe in God and naturally hope that I am right in my belief. It is that I hope there is no God. I don't want there to be a God. I don't want the universe to be like that. This is so honest. I love this because it showed that it is something beyond reason and evidence. It's psychological. How can someone like that, biased like that, be fair in his research? The man, listen to what he's saying carefully. Listen carefully. He said, I hope there is no God. I don't want there to be a God. I don't want the universe to be like that. Yani, even if the existence of God is the truth, he hates it. He hates what? The truth. Remember this. He hates the truth. Subhanallah. Listen to the Quran. Because I always wondered, how can the Quran ignore such a phenomenon? There isn't any ayah in the Quran that talks clearly about people who reject the existence of God. There isn't. But there are ayat that talk about people who hate God in the Quran. And I always wondered, how can the Quran ignore atheism? And then I discovered that because there is no atheism. It is Misotheism. It is the hatred of God. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, أم يقولون به جنة بل جاءهم بالحق وأكثرهم للحق كارهون ولو اتبع الحق أهواءهم لفسدت السماوات والأرض ومن فيهن. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, ayah number 70 and 71 says, or is that they do not recognize their messenger, so they disacknowledge him? Or do they say he is possessed? Rather, he has come to them with the truth, but most of them are hateful for the truth. Someone here can tell me, yeah, but when it says most of them are hateful for the truth, doesn't necessarily mean that they hate Allah. No. Listen to the context. Listen to the next verse. Next verse says, yet were the truth to follow their whims, the heavens and the earth and everyone in them would have become corrupted. Therefore, the truth here is who? Is Allah. Right or not? One of the names of Allah is what? Al-Haq, the truth. And the ayah says, they hated the truth and had the truth follow their whims, which means had Allah follow their whims, the heavens and the earth could have become corrupted. So the Quran addressed people who are Misotheists, who hate God. Surah Al-Zukhruf, the kuffar in hellfire, وَنَادَوْا يَا مَالِكُ لِيَقْضِ عَلَيْنَا رَبُّكَ. And they cried, O Malik, let your Lord finish us off. He said, you are staying. They spoke to Malik, the warden of hell, telling him, let your Lord finish us. We cannot stand the torture. He said, you are staying. We certainly came to you with the truth, but most of you are hateful of the truth. Therefore, the Quran addressed those who hate God, but subhanallah, when the Quran chose a name of God, with them he chose the truth, because they don't hate Allah ar-Rahman. The Quran didn't say, but you hated ar-Rahman, or you hated ar-Rahim, or you hated the most merciful, or the most, or the forgiving. No, no, no. They hated al-Haqq. They hated the truth. Therefore, some people take the decision to depart the religion, then they start making excuses. Why did you leave the religion? Because the Prophet married Lady Aisha in a young age. Then you explain to them that she was an adult, and you explain to them the whole thing logically, but they still want to stay out. Why did you leave the religion? Because Islam has been spread by the sword. And then you explain to them that Islam protected itself by the sword. Islam never forced itself on anyone. And you prove this to them historically and logically, but they still want to stay out. Why did you leave Islam? Because Islam did not prohibit slavery clearly, like it prohibited wine gradually, but clearly at the end. Then you explain to them the relationship between slavery and racism, and how Islam dealt with the root cause, how Islam dealt with the disease, not with the symptom. But they still want to stay out. So it's because the decision has been taken. All these are false excuses. They took the decision to leave. So the root causes can be a personal trauma, and I have 9 examples. The root causes can be philosophical, and I have 16 examples today. And the root causes can be shortcomings of tarbiyah, or upbringing the children, and I have 8 examples. So we are going to start the lecture now. We are going to start speaking about 33 root causes. And in the second lecture, inshallah, next week, we will speak about, or we will discuss together about how can we avoid doubts about the religion. I'm not calling it atheism anymore, khalas, okay? Doubts about religion in case of any of these root causes inflicts us or our children. How can we avoid them? Let's speak about the personal trauma. The biggest root cause and the most common is what is called the defective father-child relationship hypothesis. Defective relationship between the father and the child. I didn't say the parent, I said the father, the male figure. Dr. Paul Vitz, he's a senior scholar at the Institute of Psychological Sciences in America, studied this thoroughly, and he wrote an amazing book called The Faith of the Fatherless. And he spoke about that actually very thoroughly. And this syndrome is of 2 types, the fatherless. Either because of a loss of the father in a young age, or because of a weak or abusive father. So it is the same syndrome. For example, Frederick Nietzsche. Nietzsche is a German philosopher and a writer, and his father died when he was 4. And his father was a Protestant minister. Dr. Paul Vitz said that the statement of Nietzsche has a very famous statement, which is, God died. Dr. Paul Vitz says that This is an example of the loss of the father syndrome. And he was actually releasing, my dad died. And you know who is the one who invented the character Superman? Nietzsche. Nietzsche invented the character Übermensch. Über means over, Mensch, man, the overman, the Superman. Why was that? It was trying to fill the vacuum left by his father's death. And you know, the father is a Superman for the little child. You know, he leaves in the morning, he comes back at night with money. My father is a Superman, he can do everything. And by time when the child starts to grow up, he starts to realize that his father is a normal person and he has normal abilities. But at the age of 4, when he died, his father was still a Superman. So when he invented the Superman. There is also the weak or abusive father syndrome. And a big example on this is the British philosopher Thomas Hobbes, who had a father who was an Anglican priest who used to sleep during his sermons, and people laugh. Yeah, imagine that I'm giving you a lesson now and then I go like this, and people laugh. Imagine that my son is with me and he sees this happening frequently. He will lose respect for me. And then what happened? His father fought with a parishioner or a church member, and they went outside the church in front of everybody and they had a fist fight. And then the man beat his father up and humiliated him to the extent that his father ran away and disappeared since then. And he abandoned his family. Hobbes was clearly an atheist, but also anti-clerical. So he was against all priests. He was against clergy. He had grudges in his heart towards the man who abandoned the family when he was young. Psychological. Nietzsche, psychological. Hobbes, psychological. Karl Marx, he made it clear that he has no respect for his father several times. He said it several times. Karl Marx did not respect his father mainly because his father converted from Judaism to Christianity, not because of any conviction, but to make life easier, for some materialistic gains, to decrease the suffering of discrimination against Jews and anti-Semitism, for convenience, yeah, to avoid anti-Semitism and stuff like that. So it was actually very damaging for the family. You know, Karl Marx is from a family of rabbis. All his father and his grandfathers and his uncles on both sides of the family were rabbis. And then his father converted to Christianity. Like that. And of course, Karl Marx, I don't need to tell you that he became the biggest advocate of materialism and communism and atheism. And he is the one who said the statement, religion is the opium of the peoples. That's Karl Marx, psychological. Sigmund Freud, Sigmund Freud himself said, nothing is more common than for a young person to lose their faith in God when they lose respect for his father. He himself said that, and he was one of those. Freud himself had the same syndrome, which is the weak father syndrome. His father was always humiliated and bullied by anti-Semites. He was also a Jew. So his father was bullied all the time by anti-Semites, and he never responds in front of his children. And this humiliation was frequently in the presence of the family. It had very negative impact. And his father married 3 women. He got 8 children from one and 2 from another one. Freud was born while his own brother was having a child. So his playmate who was playing with him and he grew up with him was actually his nephew, who was calling him uncle when they were young together. So there is a philosopher called, actually not a philosopher, but a British neurologist and psychoanalyst called Ernest Jones. He said that the status of being from a cluttered family affected the opinions of Sigmund Freud, which were so strange. He had so strange opinions, like referring everything to sex and desire. Even the baby being breastfed by his mother is because the baby is fulfilling this desire. And the mother also is happy because someone is fulfilling this desire for her. Strange opinions. And he said Freud was affected by this situation when he was young. And Freud never hid his atheism. He never hid being an atheist. But what will shock you is what his daughter said. Anna Freud, Sigmund Freud's daughter, explained that the only way to know her father is by not reading his books. She said, do you want to know my father? Don't read his biographies. Don't read his books. Read his letters to his family. So the man who was promoting atheism to the children of people, he was writing in his letters to his family, if someday we meet above, atheists don't speak like that. And he would say, my one quite secret prayer, atheists don't speak like that. She said he used to say God willing a lot and by God's grace. So the one who was promoting atheism to the children of people was not doing that to his own children. That's Sigmund Freud. So that's the first cause. The loss of a family member or a loved one, it can also be one of the causes because it's traumatic, including the mother. So that's another cause. So losing the mother is very traumatic and it can cause atheism. But it is different from the father issue. The male figure is something else. Child abuse, especially sexual child abuse, can lead, by the way, to same-sex attraction and can lead to atheism and can lead to both and may not lead to anything, by the way. So not everyone who is who doesn't look right and left before crossing the street gets hit by a car. No. But everyone who was hit by a car did not look. You understand? So I don't want anyone to be troubled when I say child abuse and they say, oh my God, I was abused when I was a kid. Don't worry, not everyone who does not look right and left will be hit by a car. But everyone who was hit by a car did not look right and left. Spousal abuse. If, for example, the man abuses his wife, this may lead to the atheism of the children, or one of the children, not necessarily the spouse herself. Spousal disloyalty can lead to doubts about the religion and leaving the religion by the spouse. I had a case. A man was brought to me because he left Islam and became Christian. We dealt with him we have a very good film called Missionaries' Deception that worked with 97% of the cases that we had dealt with very properly, alhamdulillah, except the cases that had psychological issues, like this man. This man was actually, his wife did khul'a to him. So his wife divorced him, forced divorce on him, khul'a. So he felt bad because of that, and when he left Islam, he was actually retaliating against the system that allowed this to happen to him. It's not about finding the truth. I had also another case of a woman who became Christian. That was in Egypt. Why is that? She discovered after 20 years of marriage that her husband is having a secret wife. So she was shocked. And she is actually, by leaving the religion, is retaliating against the system that allowed this to happen to her. It's not about finding comfort or truth in Christianity or anything about Islam. It's about retaliating. So spousal also disloyalty. Abuse of by community leaders, like mosques mistreating women, mosques not allowing women to pray, not having prayer spaces, or having dirty prayer space for women. I know a mosque that doesn't have heating in the area of women, only men. And when I spoke to them, they said, because we don't have enough money. Okay, if you don't have enough money, then heat the women's section. If you are real men. Wallahi, I see people doing things here that nullify their manhood. Those people are not men. It's really, I can't understand how those people think. These things can lead to atheism. And then we ask ourselves, why many converts leave Islam? Ask yourself what they see. Actually, many of them became Muslim before seeing us. One of the causes of atheism is same-sex attracted people being mocked and ridiculed and laughed at, even if they don't practice it. So some people may have the inclinations, but they don't practice it, and they have taqwa, and they want to please Allah. But every single time they sit in the mosque, they hear, not every single time, but frequently they hear ridicule and mocking. It frustrates them. The sense of inferiority, like a disabled person who feels anger because he was denied health, so he retaliates by denying God's existence. So if anyone feels inferior, this feeling of inferiority can lead to atheism. Suffering from oppression, like refugees who wonder, where is God from the Syrian kids? Where is God from what's happening to the children of Syria? This can lead to atheism. Traumatic. It's traumatic. So this trauma can lead to atheism. Dysfunctional clerics. So whenever people have something is revealed about a cleric or a sheikh or an imam, you see people very shocked, and some women start to remove their hijabs, and some men stop going to the mosque. Were you worshipping Allah or the sheikh? So this is one of the things, because for them he was the role model. The answer or the question of what can we do in these cases, this is next week. Next week, inshallah, every one of these root causes, we tell you how to avoid falling in atheism because of that. Many of these things happen all the time. And to our kids it happens. So what can we do? If a kid loses their father, what do we do to them in the family? Or if there is an abusive father, what do we do to them? And how do we talk to them? This is next week, inshallah. There is also root causes that are philosophical. Now we finished the traumatic root causes, or the root causes that were because of trauma. And we will start the root causes that are philosophical. So some people don't believe in anything that they cannot see, they cannot hear, they cannot touch. Anything that they cannot sense with their 5 senses does not exist for them. That's a philosophy. Some people believe that Islam contradicts with science. And the main topic is evolution. And the problem today is that evolution is the only accepted theory in academia. How can we deal with this? Inshallah, next week. And there is a very good lecture, not a lecture actually, it's a whole day, it's a conference, organized by an organization in Walthamstow. On the 20th of July, I received its poster recently. The organization called Fatima Elizabeth something. And they are organizing a whole day conference about evolution. And how can Muslims deal with this topic? The existence of evil is one of the most common causes of atheism. How can there be a God with all that evil in the world? 4, why didn't God create us all good? Why did God create us and He knows that some of us will go to hell? Is He enjoying sending us, some of us, to hell? Why couldn't God have created us all good? Isn't it? Definitely. So why didn't He do that? Inshallah, next week we'll speak about this. Is Islam the right way? Why is the Muslim Ummah so backward if Islam is the right way? Backward in everything. In politics, in economy, in education, in justice, even in cleanliness. Sorry, no offense, I'm one of you guys. Walk in Whitechapel and walk in Liverpool Street. These things cause atheism, I'm telling you. Relating Islam to the backwardness of Muslims. The authenticity of the Quran is also an issue that atheists use to throw doubts in the hearts of Muslims and the believers. And there's a very good approach to approach that. The authenticity of the Sunnah as well, which is our number 2 source of knowledge and legislation. And you find a lot actually of Muslims today who say, I'm not going to take except what's in the Quran. I'm not going to take what's in al-Bukhari. How can al-Bukhari collect all these hadith? So this is an issue that needs to be understood, and we need to know how to explain it, and how to understand it. The imagined discrimination against women, like why do they wear hijab but men don't? Why do they get a lesser share in inheritance, if this is true? Why couldn't they drive in Saudi Arabia? That was until last year. Why can't they vote in Saudi Arabia? Actually, no one votes in Saudi Arabia. Not men, no women. So all these things affect, and people look at Saudi Arabia as the what? The cradle of Islam. On Egyptian TV, one of the most famous journalists said Prophet Muhammad was Saudi. Some people believe that Prophet Muhammad was Saudi. Actually, Saudi Arabia was actually founded 100 years ago. Sharia and its severe prescribed punishments, cutting off hands. These things trouble people. How can this be a true religion? When someone who steals, we should cut off his hand? We should, instead of taking him to a prison and spend 10 years in the prison, learning other things, how to open safes, pickpocketing, anything. Free speech. The apostasy laws in some Muslim countries, like Sudan, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, all these things are used by atheists to promote atheism and speak against Islam. So the issue of free speech and apostasy. I'm telling you about the most famous things that are used to promote atheism. Gender segregation. Whenever Muslims have an event, women are here, men are there. Men are here, women are there. So this is an issue also that is always used. Hyper-literalism. And this is something that you see a lot in people who left Islam and they were from a Salafi background or very strict background, that they were literalists. There are some examples on this. There's Abdullah Samir and Ismail and those people who call themselves ex-Muslims or why I left Islam. Those are literalists. They use very famous hadith that when the Prophet Muhammad was with, I think, Abu Dharr al-Ghifari, and the sun set, so he asked him, do you know, Abu Dharr, where does the sun go when it sets? He said, where, O Prophet of Allah? He said, it goes and prostrates under the throne of Allah. So they use it. Say, see, Islam contradicts with science. Whenever the sun sets, it rises somewhere else, so the sun actually never sets. So Islam is because of that literalism. Literalism. We will explain this next time, inshallah. There are some young people who leave Islam to come back again. And those should be discovered if this happens. For example, someone may know about a famous writer like Mustafa Mahmoud, the Egyptian Mustafa Mahmoud, who became an atheist, and then he searched, and then he found that there is a God, and then he searched in religions, and then he became Muslim. So the experience itself is nice. So some people may see that someone leaving Islam and becoming a Muslim, but not an inherited Islam, not inherited from his parents. No, he became Muslim out of his own choice. So many people, many kids actually, would love to go through this experience. So some of them start to identify themselves as atheists to come back. If we don't deal with them properly, they may always be outside Islam. So we need to know how to deal with them. Telling a kid like that, well, these thoughts does not make you an atheist. Still, you are not an atheist. As long as you keep telling him you are not still an atheist, he's not going to come back. Let him reach it and start coming back. But we need to speak about this, inshallah, next time. Suffering from oppression, like people who wonder, where is God from the children of Syria? You say, you said this before in the trauma. No. When I said it in the trauma, it was about those who suffered themselves. But when I say it here in the category of philosophy, it means that someone can be British and leave Islam when he sees Syrians suffering like that. So here is philosophical. Here it's not about trauma, not about suffering yourself from it. No, it's about seeing others suffering like that and feeling bad for them, feeling that they do not deserve that. Post-revolution's freedom atmosphere. So after the revolution, Arab Spring, the revolution against Mubarak, whatever, there is an atmosphere of freedom. And the clergy before the revolution was used by the government, by the oppressors, to control people. Like, for example, the Grand Mufti of Egypt at the time of Mubarak issued a fatwa that it is haram to boycott the presidential or the parliamentarian elections. That was to neutralize the call of the opposition to boycott the elections, because it's rigged elections at the time of Mubarak. So he used the clergy, the Muslim clergy, to control people by issuing fatwas like that. So after the revolution, you would see some people leaving even Islam. So the problem is not in the revolution itself. It's still in the defective clergy and so on. Like that, we finished the root causes of philosophical root causes, and now we will deal quickly with the last 8 root causes, which are tarbiyah or upbringing root causes. One of the worst is the infallible child. The child is 1 year old, and he starts walking, and then he stumbles in the carpet. So his mom says, "Oh, bad carpet. You made Ahmed fall." And then he bumps his head into the table. So they tell him, bad table. You made you bumped Ahmed's head. So Ahmed grows up feeling infallible. He doesn't do any mistakes. Any hardship, anything wrong must be from outside, not his mistake. He grows up and then he starts having some stress, like when he's 12 or 13, some stress because of the finals. He has to study a lot because he has finals. He's not happy. There's a lot of stress. Who is responsible for that? He starts throwing the blame on Allah because he doesn't find anyone responsible. Definitely not the table, definitely not the rug, definitely not his parents. Who then? This is completely against the tarbiyah of the Quran that tells us ما أصابكم من مصيبة فبما كسبت أيديكم ويعفو عن كثير. Any calamity that befalls you is the outcome of your own handiwork. That's the opposite of the Quran. So we are corrupting our own children. Believe me, some children, if they grow up orphans, would be better for them than having those parents. I know that many of you are worried now. But inshallah, khair. There are things to do now that we can avoid that, inshallah. The lack of the critical thinking. Some kids just believe anything told to them. Well, he goes to school, he loves his chemistry teacher, and because of that, he loves chemistry. And then the chemistry teacher tells him, I don't believe in God, I believe in science. It's like a knife in his heart. He loves that teacher. The teacher cannot be wrong. How can we deal with this? We have this a lot now. A lot of the teachers are atheists. And our kids listen to them every day and they love them and they learn from them. How can we deal with this? Homeschooling cannot be the solution. How can we deal with it? How can I teach the kid to think critically, not to buy everything he hears? The focus on the scenario of fear alone. I hear this a lot in the UK. People always say, if you do this, you go to hell. If you do this, you go to hell. If you do this, you go to hell. I've seen Muslims here who grew up, they don't even know that God rewards by Jannah. They don't know it. They were always scared of nar, fire, hell, fire. This is not good. We will talk next time about that and how can we deal with this. There is the spoiled child who gets everything he wants. He wants an Xbox, he gets an Xbox. He wants to go to the park, he goes to the park. He wants that shirt, he gets that shirt. Anything he wants, he gets. And then when he grows up, he's shocked that life is not like that. Actually, in life is the opposite. It's most of what he wants, he can't get. So why did we upbring him like that? Why didn't we prepare him for the real life? So one of the root causes is to avoid the pangs of mind conscious when desires are unleashed. Some people cannot control their desires, and their desires are unleashed, so they fornicate, they drink, they go do this and do that, but they don't like to feel the pain of their mind conscious. So instead of stopping committing the crime, they just remove the law. Have you seen the film The Purge? In America, they wanted, it's a film that, imaginary yani, that they wanted to deal with crime. So because they can't deal with crime, they just removed the law. So everything became okay. Like that, there is no crimes. Killing became legal, stealing became legal, rape became legal, like that. Actually, it's true, no crimes. So instead of stopping the crime, they remove the law. Some people become atheists because of that. They want to feel that they're doing something haram, haram, haram. Okay, leave the religion. Like that, he's not doing haram. There is al-ightiraru bil-ma'rifa, or vanity, the feeling of vanity of people who think themselves knowledgeable. Some people are deceived because they read few books and made masters in this and made a PhD in this. So they become arrogant. This arrogance and this vanity leads to atheism. They think that they can judge everything. He reads an ayah in the Quran. No, this ayah is not right. This ayah actually contradicts this. And they start feeling this arrogance. Seeking attention and fame. And that's a lot. If you say La ilaha illallah, that's normal and you're not going to be famous. But if you say La ilaha only, there is no God, you will become famous. You can get space on TV. Your videos will be flying on YouTube. And you may get a political asylum if you are from Pakistan. See? So that's the problem. Seeking gains. There is the personality disorder. And like some people call the borderline personality disorder. It's some people are hot-headed, or people who are unstable and moody. So today he identifies himself as an atheist. You sit with him for a while, he is convinced. Next day he starts reading the Bible because he's considering Christianity. You sit with him, you show him missionaries deception video. He is next day pro-Trump. You sit with him and you tell him you can do that. He's next day pro-Israel. Next day he's anti-Semitic. It's just moody. And this case actually feels joy by doing that because they feel that they are playing a game of chess against their parents, intimidating them all the time like that. And it is not about finding the truth. It's just feeling joy inside by doing that. And many of those actually are ex-autistic children. So it's like 3 times more than in the probability of having atheists among ex-autistic or autistic children is like 3 times more the probability of other people who don't have autism. And it's because they have weak social skills. So they do not have a good realization of the pain that they cause for their parents and their loved ones every time they speak like that. They just throw a word and their parents don't sleep for 3 months. You understand? So this weak social skills. Like that, we finished, alhamdulillah, today's lecture. We mentioned 33 root causes of doubting religion, whether atheism or doubting Islam itself or anything. So next time, inshallah, we will deal with the remedies and what can we do in these cases of, or if any of these root causes afflict us or our children. Jazakumullah khairan, barakallah fikum. I can open the floor for a few questions, inshallah. Any question? Dismissed. I'm dismissed. Alhamdulillah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.